Now, with critical infrastructure of the Independent National Electoral Commission increasingly being targeted, recent attacks appear like a systematic assault meant to cripple INEC operations ahead of the 2023 general elections. Now, prior to this period, serial violence and arson against INEC personnel and facilities in some states, especially in the southeast and south-south zones, had resulted in the destruction of buildings and vital election equipment, as well as loss of lives. We'll take a look at what this means for the 2023 general elections. We have in the studio Jide Ojo, public affairs analyst, with us right here, aka the media oracle. Welcome.
Gentleman of the press.
Welcome to the studio.
It's a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Yes. Well, we have seen these attacks on INEC facilities. As a result, we've seen cubicles, PVCs being destroyed. In fact, even some INEC officials being injured in some parts of the country. Though the INEC chair is giving assurance that the attacks will not affect the 2023 elections, these are realities that we are having to deal with, as we approach the elections. What's your take on these recent attacks, really, and where is it heading?
It's a very worrisome development. Sincerely speaking, I'm worried, Steve, about why this is happening. If the attacks were on party secretariats or candidates, you will say it's mutually assured destruction. But those who are targeting INEC infrastructure, is it that they prefer military rule to civil rule and they don't want civil rule again? Because I really can't understand. Why will anybody wake up and the next thing is to go and set ablaze institutions?
So in the Southeast, for instance, we hear that they don't want elections to hold in the Southeast. That's for those who are belonging to the
indigenous people
of Biafra, the agitations, the secessionist agitations and all that. So those perhaps are some of the reasons why we're seeing these attacks.
I mean, absolutely, without considering that that is even their interest. That is amounting to cutting your nose to spite your face. You want to live and you want to destroy. I mean, if they want to live, is it that they are going to remove the houses and their property and take it to their new homeland? Or is that same homeland that they feel that they need to raise in order to press home their demands? I think the unknown government phenomenon has been glamorized for too long. And which is why, the November 6, 2021 governorship election in Anambra recorded a paltry 10.24% voter turnout. I wrote in my column in The Punch last week about the implications of these attacks. And it's very heart-rending because it's a recipe for anarchy. It's a recipe to incentivize the military to come and take over. Of course, it's a recipe for low voter turnout.
But, Mr. Ojo, first of all, the people behind this, I'm sure they know they cannot stop election from holding. I'm sure they know that.
I don't know whether they know that.
So why does it keep happening? Because even the INEC chair said yesterday that this is not going to affect, that yes, it's going to affect them, but the elections will still hold. So with that knowledge, why would Nigerians continue to destroy public infrastructure?
That's the million-dollar question I've also been trying to wrap my head around, because let me give you statistics. In 2019, INEC spent around 189 billion. That's what the federal government invested in the conduct of 2019 election. The total sum was 242 billion. 53 billion was earmarked or given to the police and other security agencies, while INEC got 189 billion. Fast track that 4 years after, INEC already is in receipt, I want to believe, of 305 billion for the conduct of 2023 election. Now, in 2023 budget, INEC has requested for additional 50 billion. This money, what the destroyers or the arsonists invariably or inadvertently are doing is to make money that should have been invested in critical infrastructures to be spent on electioneering. Because INEC will have to replace all these lost items. And don't forget, it's not only this arson that has made INEC, that has dealt some very deadly punch on INEC. Even the flood. The flooding that took place recently submerged many INEC offices, particularly the local government offices. For instance, the entire Bayelsa State was underwater for some weeks. INEC infrastructure in Bayelsa State were not immune. So we are not talking of those ones that flood has destroyed. We are talking of one that you deliberately will go and set ablaze. For what reason? So now, people are being disenfranchised. The PVCs that were destroyed in EZ 2 days ago, INEC will have to replace it. Don't forget, nobody pays to get their PVC. So you have to contract and pay another money together. The generating set, power generating set, the cubicles, the voters, ballot box, and several other items.
So shouldn't we be fortifying some of these INEC offices? And
also,
if we cannot protect the materials in the INEC offices, then why then should they reside there? Maybe we should
No. See, the point is, yes, that's part of the solution. To my own mind, we need to conscientize Nigerians that INEC property is a public asset that needed to be protected by all and sundry. And it's not just INEC office, it's all the public offices in and around. You know, national orientation agencies also have offices in local government, and several other DSS and all of, and police. And you saw the level of destruction of police stations in 2020 during the NSAS protest. And I'm not sure we have gotten out of that yet. The billions that needed to be replaced, to be spent to replace those police barracks and police stations that were burnt and operational vehicles, is still hampering provisioning of security till today, 2 years after. Now, INEC offices are being touched. What needed to be done? And I have suggested this. In fact, the article I wrote last week on the implication of this, I did suggest that there is a need to mobilize the traditional institutions. All these communities have traditional rulers. And traditional rulers are also in charge of security, quote and unquote, in those local government or in those communities. And they could spare 1 or 2 night guards or day guards to, you know, complement the maybe 1 or 2 that INEC will have provided. But beyond that is to conscientize people in those communities to see those property, those INEC offices as government's property.
But how efficient? I mean, as far as those who are perpetrating this are concerned, they do not care about, you know, it's not lack of awareness or lack of understanding of how these institutions or facilities, government facilities, needs to be protected. You know, they don't want to know about that. They don't look like people that care about that. So how do you conscientize?
No, it's a multi-pronged approach. I'm not saying that is the only way to go. I'm saying one way to go is mobilize the traditional institutions to complement. You know, traditional rulers have people in charge of security. They have even chiefs that are in charge of security, and they can get some vigilantes to complement. That is just one. The other one is that there are DSS offices in all the local government. There are police stations in all the local government. And these people need to have a small ICES, Interagency Consultative Committee on Election Security, for local government. The one at the Abuja level, the national level has been meeting, but it has not percolated to the local government.
But Mr. Ojo, after the Osun attack, there was a meeting by the IGP where he said that the federal government has deployed members of the armed forces, Civil Defense Corps, and DSS to all INEC facilities. And that was about 2 weeks ago. Shortly after that, okay, 2 weeks down, we had this attack in Ebonyi on Sunday.
Yeah.
So now you begin to wonder what happened to the deployment of those people.
Well, I wish I were in the military or armed forces. Maybe I would have been able to provide answers. But this is purely on the table of the Inspector General of Police and National Security Advisor to provide eloquent response to why the Z attack still took place after the address by the Inspector General of Police and then the meeting with the chairman of the 18 political parties. But you see, this will have to be a multi-pronged approach. We have to do advocacy, media advocacy. We need to encourage the traditional institutions to also provide ancillary support. We also need to ask the DSS and the police in the local government to work with the vigilantes if it means having a joint task force. And of course, INEC needs to move all its materials out of its local government offices into a zonal store. You understand? INEC needs to treat voting cubicles, generating sets, PVCs, and all of the other items that are in those local government offices as sensitive materials. They're not treating it as sensitive materials, in which case they just put them there. That's why, they still get caught napping and having this destruction. Like operational vehicles, all of this have maybe moved to the state office. And from state office, you move to local government on maybe a week to the election, because these people really want to scuttle democracy. I really cannot wrap my head around why people need to do this.
Ojo, if they want to scuttle democracy, don't you think the one way to go about it is to apprehend the perpetrators and get them to provide their sponsors and see that justice is served?
The Inspector General of Police did say that governors are among those who are sponsoring thuggery in their state. Governors have immunity. I'm not saying governors are the ones asking them to go and burn INEC offices, but in terms of other modes of attacks that we have seen, because there are 3 types of attacks that is going on right now. We have the physical attack, which is where INEC attack on INEC facilities lie. We also have those, attacks on, candidates and other opposition elements within the state structures. But beyond the physical attack, which is well known, which has been articulated, where the Inspector General of Police said they have recorded 52 of such attacks, there is also structural and psychological violence going on. And all of this needs to be checkmated. But you and I are handicapped because we are not trained security personnel. So the security personnel needs to go beyond the rhetorics of we will deal with you, to now start having intelligence gathering to apprehend those who have perpetrated across. This is getting to almost 50 INEC offices that have been attacked in the last 3 years. 50. At some point last year, INEC said they have recorded over 40 of such attacks. Now, if you had the one that took place in the lead up to November 6th election in Anambra, and the 3 that has happened recently in Ogun, in Osun, and in Ebonyi, it's almost getting to 50 INEC offices. So this is being replaced and repaired with taxpayers' money that should have been deployed to other critical infrastructure. So I agree with you completely, my beautiful sister, that security agencies need to fish out the perpetrators. They live in those communities. Even if they are not living there. The one that happened in Izzi took place around 10 a.m. It wasn't under the cover of darkness. So somebody somewhere must have seen some strange movement in that environment. And DSS, the police, needs to up their ante by going after these perpetrators, get them arrested and prosecuted. Even if they have powerful barons and top people in government as their sponsors, by the time you have some dozens of people in jail for this offense, it will send a warning signal, because we are less than 90 days to the next election. But you never can tell if these people decide to up the ante and go and destroy our next state office, because they are still dealing with local government offices. One day, it happened in Anambra on the eve of 2019 election. If you recall, these assassins targeted the store where INEC kept its smart card readers, and they burnt over 4,000 smart card readers in one day in Oka.
So how can political parties...
You ask yourself, have those perpetrators been arrested and prosecuted? They just wished it away and mobilized from store, or we can't continue to treat this like with kids' gloves. That's sacrosanct. So some urgent measures need to be taken to checkmate this escalating ahead of 2023 elections. Sorry,
I'm just wondering. I mean, all of these people, Nigerians, basically, they're either supporters of Party A or Party B or Party C. So can't the political parties intervene in this regard?
In what way would they intervene? They will form vanguard or vigilante.
They could do that.
I really don't know. I don't think we should empower non-state actors in this. The state...
But in terms of providing information, if they have...
Yes, they can provide information, useful information that can be given to...
They could use their people to monitor.
Yes, they can also provide the ancillary support services to the security agencies. But I will not agree with situation where political parties will not be the one to deploy their members to be providing security. The INEC one needs to hire more security guards. If they need to go the way of private guards, armed private guards, to protect their facilities. And then the traditional institutions giving them additional support. The most critical time is actually the night. If we can have one policeman, one vigilante, and INEC staff, 3 of them providing security. Because I have also done some research which took me to some INEC offices. Some INEC offices are actually inside a very bushy area. I won't say they are inside forest. The few ones that are more protected are the ones located within the local government secretariat. There are those that are in local government secretariat, but there are also those who are in isolated places. And these ones in isolated places makes it very easy for people to destroy it. Okay. But I would say INEC needs to move those critical materials out of their local government. Maybe when it's just a week to the election, then they can deploy back and have more, at least having some sufficient number of guards at that place.
All right, how much of a dilemma are we in here? When you think about some of the reactions that trailed the involvement of the central bank governor in political issues and the call for INEC to stop storing some of its materials at the Central Bank of Nigeria. I mean, if we have some of those materials in the CBN, which is more fortified, perhaps we would not be having as much of these experiences, destruction of certain materials and all that. So this kind of appears to be a dilemma for us, isn't it?
It's a dilemma, but let me speak to this issue of distrust with the CBN. Recently, I think late last month or early this month, when INEC called us, civil society organizations, media, and the different stakeholders to a meeting, this was a proposal raised whether we are in support of INEC keeping its materials still with the CBN, given the history of the CBN governor being partisan. And when we weigh all the options, is it to be kept in military barracks? Is it to be kept with which other agencies have that facility that can? So we resolved, and INEC chairman did tell us that even the political parties resolved that the sensitive materials should still be kept with the central bank. Meanwhile, we cannot move all the voting vehicles, generating sets, vehicles to CBN offices. It's not. Look, in the coming days, INEC is going to start distribution of PVCs. They're going. Already, people are saying that the PVCs distribution should be taken to the world level. And what is lower than the local government? So, if already attacks are being made on the local government offices, and it's not ideal for personnel of INEC to go home with the PVCs of people. What if their homes are broken into and people still? Just on Sunday, Festus Okoye Esquire did release a press statement where he said some people, one person in Sokoto was jailed for 1 year for being in possession of how many PVCs, multiple PVCs. Another one in another state is currently being prosecuted for having over 100 PVCs. So if INEC personnel were to take these PVCs home to make it easy for them to go to the world to distribute, what if this non-government or these delinquents or these unscrupulous people decide to attack their home and make away? So this is I think the intelligence gathering of the Nigerian military and police needs to be heightened, particularly on who are the sponsors, the ROS and masterminds of this, so that they can get them out of business. Because these people are not the ones sending themselves on this errand. Somebody is behind it, and the person is trying to orchestrate a situation where election will not hold, or if it will hold, there will be so much apathy that, in fact, we will have maybe less than 10% of voter. And look at the investment in this forthcoming election. I told you 305 billion had already been given to INEC, because according to Section 3 sub 3 of the Electoral 2023, the funds for the next election has to be with INEC 1 year ahead. So I assume that for the 2023 election, INEC is in receipt of 305 billion. Now it has requested for additional 50 billion. That brings the total sum that INEC and federal government is investing in 2023 election to 355 billion. That is outside of what the donor community is bringing to the table. The UNDPs of this world, the European Unions of this world, and the USAID of this world, the DFIDs of. So when you add everything together, Nigeria election is happening to be one of the most expensive in the world. And attacks on facilities of INEC is actually providing ancillary additional cost to conducting election. But the social cost is even more mind-boggling. The social cost in this respect is, will people trust, or will we have a credible leader emerging from a violent process? Because the integrity of election will be affected if at the end of the day you have to ride to office on the blood of Nigerians. And this violence needs to be tamed, whether it's psychological, structural, or physical. So the Interagency Consultative Committee on Election Security have over 20 agencies. Over 20. Including fire brigade, fire services, including EFCC, including including NDLA. So all of them needs to have their intelligence team, like the RRT that Nigerian police has, which Abba Kyari was leading a team before. If they have this intelligence, they will go and sniff out. These people are not ghosts. They can track them, arrest them, get them debriefed, to name their sponsors, and arrest their sponsors, put them out of business, and I think that will stall or checkmate this raging fire of destroying INEC offices across the country.
All right, thank you so much for your perspectives. This is where we'll have to end the discussion because of our time. Thank you for joining us.
Always a pleasure.